الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد, continue reading in the work of our Shaykh Abdul Muhsin bin Hamid al-Abad al-Badr حفظه الله تعالى تفسير الناسك بأحكام المناسك. We have come to the portion the author he mentioned رحمه الله تعالى شروط الحج والعمرة, the conditions for Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah. And the issue of conditions for actions of worship is understood in three different lights. The first one is shurut al-wujub, and this means conditions for the obligation of that worship. And the second aspect is shurut al-sihha, conditions for the correctness of that action of worship. And the third one is شروط الإجزاء يعني عن الفرض. And the third aspect is that it will be conditions for something being considered performed in a manner that the obligation has been lifted. So we have شروط للوجوب, and we have شروط للصحة, and we have شروط للإجزاء. شروط للوجوب يعني لوجوب الأداء. There are conditions for the obligation of performing these sacred rites. Then there are likewise conditions for the correctness of those sacred rites. And there are conditions for those sacred rites to be performed in a manner where the obligation is lifted. And has been fulfilled and performed properly. So we're discussing now شروط لوجوب الحج والعمرة. These are conditions for the obligation of Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, and likewise some of them are also شروط للصحة والإجزاء. So the author, he says حفظه الله تعالى, conditions for the Hajj and the Umrah. الحج والعمرة واجبان. الحج والعمرة واجبان على كل مسلم عاقل بالغ حر قادر. وتزيد المرأة شرطا سادسا وهو وجود المحرم الذي يسافر معها. الحج والعمرة واجبان. That Al-Hajj and Umrah, they're both obligations. على كل مسلم, upon every Muslim. عاقل, who has a sound mind. بالغ, who has reached the age of puberty. حر, who was a free man. وقادر, and has the ability. So here are 5 conditions mentioned for the obligation of Hajj. They must all be present for that obligation to be upon a person. If a person did not fulfill one or more of these conditions, then the obligation will not be upon him. Al-Hajj wal-Umratu wajibani. So we're referring to these conditions of wujub. That Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, they're both obligations. Ala kulli Muslim, upon every Muslim. So this is the condition of Al-Islam. Aqilin, every Muslim with the sound mind. So this is the condition of Al-Aql. Balighin, of the age of puberty. So this is a condition of Al-Bulugh, reaching the age of puberty. Hurrin, hur is the condition of hurriya, being a freed person, not being a slave. Qadir, having the ability. This is the condition of al-qudra or al-istita'a. Al-qudra or istita'a. And then he says, Hafidhahullah, وَتَزِيدُ الْمَرْأَةُ شَرْطًا سَادِسًا. And the woman, she has, in addition to this, a 6th condition. A woman, she has, in addition to these conditions, a 6th condition. وَهُوَ وُجُودُ الْمَحْرَمِ الَّذِي يُسَافِرُ مَعَهَا. And that is the presence of a mahram that will travel with her. Not just the presence of a mahram, but rather وُجُودُ الْمَحْرَمِ الَّذِي يُسَافِرُ مَعَهَا. A mahram who is willing to travel with her. The people of knowledge called him the mutawi', the one who is cooperating with her, and the one who is willing to travel with her on this journey. So we have seen in the previous class the obligation of Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, both of them. And we have seen that the obligation is ala al-fawr, that it's an immediate obligation. As soon as those conditions are fulfilled, then it becomes an obligation upon him to perform immediately, as soon as possible. So here there are 5 conditions, along with the 6th one for the woman. For the woman. Some of the people of knowledge, they have mentioned this here in 2 lines of poetry. They have summarized this whole chapter here in this topic that we're discussing in 2 lines of poetry. And their statement, Al-Hajj wal-Umratu wajibani fil umri marratan bila tawani bi sharti islamin kada hurriya aqlun bulughun qudratun jaliyya. Al-Hajj wal-Umratu wajibani. Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, both of them are an obligation. Fil umri marratan bila tawani, in a person's lifetime, one time, without delaying, meaning immediately. Bi sharti islamin kada hurriya, with the condition of al-Islam, and likewise being a freed person, being a free man. Wa aqlun, and having a sound mind. Aqlun, having a sound mind. Bulughun, being of the age of puberty. Wa qudratun jaliyya. Aqlun bulughun qudratun jaliyya, and having the clear ability. So Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, they're both obligations. They're both obligations that should be performed once in a lifetime without delay. بلا تواني. الحج والعمرة واجبان في العمر مرة بلا تواني, without delay. بشرط إسلام وكذا حرية. بشرط إسلام كذا حرية عقل بلوغ قدرة جلية, with the condition of Islam and also being a free man and having a sound mind and reaching the age of puberty and having the ability. So these are the 5 conditions for Hajj to be upon a person as an individual. And the Hajj in general, it's a pillar from the pillars of Al-Islam and the ground and the great foundations of this religion. And it's an obligation in general, but before it's an obligation upon a specific individual, these conditions must be met. There are 5 of them. Who can repeat them? Al-Islam, Al-Bulugh, Al-Aql. There's 3. Al-Hurriya. 4. Qudra. In English. Al-Islam. Sound mind. Reaching the age of puberty. Being a free person. And having the ability. Ahsanta, barakallah fiqh. And having the ability. So this is what the author is discussing here. We read it again from the beginning. Al-Hajj wal-Umratu wajibani ala kulli Muslim. Aqil, baligh, hur, qadir. وتزيد المرأة شرطا سادسا. And the woman, in addition, she has a 6th condition. وهو وجود المحرم الذي يسافر معها. And that is the presence of a mahram that will travel with her. So all of these conditions must be present before that obligation is upon a person. Before the ruling of al-wujub, yani hukum al-wujub, before this obligation is applied to a specific individual, la budda min ijtima'i shurut al-wujub. The conditions, they must be gathered. La budda min tawaffuri الشروط, they must be gathered. وانتفاء الموانع, and anything that will prohibit likewise that ruling from being applied must be as well lifted. If that is the case, these conditions are present and there's nothing forbidding that ruling from being applied to that person, it will become an obligation. When? Immediately. An immediate obligation. What does it mean by immediately? As soon as possible. And as soon as the season comes and the opportunity comes. So now the Shaykh is going to mention some brief details about each one of these conditions. فالكافر لا يؤمر بالحج والعمرة قبل إسلامه ولا يصحان منه لو فعلهما. So therefore a disbeliever, he's not ordered to perform al-Hajj, nor is he ordered to perform al-Umrah before his Islam, before accepting Islam. And if he were to perform them, they would not be correct from him. So therefore, we see now that al-Islam is not only a condition for the obligation, but also it's a condition for the correctness of the action. meaning that it's not an obligation for the disbeliever to perform Hajj. He's not ordered to do that. He's not ordered to do that. And if he were to do that, it would not be correct. Even if he made Hajj while he's upon disbelief, it would not be correct. So a person who makes Hajj in a state of disbelief, waliyadu billah, his Hajj is not correct nor accepted from him. His Hajj is not correct nor accepted from him. فَالْكَافِرُ لَا يُؤْمَرُ بِالْحَجِّ وَالْعُمْرَةِ. The disbeliever, he's not ordered with Hajj nor Umrah. And likewise, he's not ordered with Salah, nor is he ordered with Zakat or Siyam or any other pillar or action from the deeds of Islam. What is he ordered with? He's ordered with Al-Imanu Billahi Azza wa Jal. He's ordered with Al-Imanu Billahi Azza wa Jal. So the Shaykh, he says, بَلْ هُوَ مَأْمُورٌ بِالْأُصُولِ وَهِيَ Al-Iman. Rather, he's ordered with the fundamentals of the religion, and that is Al-Iman. You need to believe in Allah and that which Allah has ordered and made an obligation to believe in. And that which Allah has ordered and made an obligation to believe in. وبالفروع تابعا للأصول على القول الصحيح في مسألة خطاب الكفار بفروع الشريعة لقول الله عز وجل. And also he's ordered with the subsidiary issues, meaning the actions of Islam, along with the principles and the most correct position from the statements of the people of knowledge and the issue of whether the disbelievers are addressed with rights of Islam or not, with the rights of the legislation or not. And meaning that a disbeliever, although he's not ordered, we do not order him to make Hajj or any of the other actions of the religion, is going to be taken into account for them. So he's ordered to accept Islam, and along with that, to follow the deen and apply the sacred rights of Islam. So he's not ordered first to perform these rights, rather to bring the condition for those rights, and that is Islam. Just like someone from the Muslims, for example, he's ordered to pray. But if he does not have wudu, his prayer will not be accepted. So he's not ordered to pray except after making wudu. So somebody who didn't have wudu, we will not tell him to go pray, meaning without wudu. Rather, we tell him to pray, yes, but first you must bring the condition for that prayer to be accepted, and that is al-wudu. And if a believer, he prayed without wudu, then his prayer will not be accepted. And he'll be taken into account for not making wudu and for not praying the prayer properly. We understand this? So similarly like this, a disbeliever, he's ordered to accept Islam, and along with that, to follow the religion and to establish those sacred rights. He's not ordered to establish those rights before bringing the condition. And if he established some of those rights, performing those actions outwardly, it would not be accepted from him because he failed to bring the condition. And if he lived and died in that manner, then he'll be taken into account for failing to bring the condition, and for not accepting Islam, and likewise for that which follows along with that from the actions and deeds. So that means that his punishment will be more severe. So he will be punished for disbelieving, and he'll be punished for not establishing the rights that are incumbent upon him, from performing the obligations and avoiding the prohibitions. This is the issue that we're discussing. So the people of knowledge that differed about this, and what we're discussing now is what the Shaykh is telling us, Hafidhullah, the strongest or the correct position in this issue. Now he mentions the evidences for this. لِقَوْلِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ. And this is based upon the statement of Allah the Most High, وَيْلٌ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. Wail, yani destruction and halak. Destruction and halak for the mushrikeen, the pagans and the polytheists. For the pagans and the polytheists. And then Allah, He mentioned who they are. الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. Those who do not perform the zakat, and they disbelieve in the hereafter. So disbelieving in the hereafter is disbelief, وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ, and it's sufficient for a person to be punished in the hellfire for eternity, and to be considered a disbeliever, and for none of his actions to be accepted. But along with that, along with being disbelievers and belying and denying the day of resurrection and the hereafter, also they didn't pay the zakat. So Allah is mentioning this about them to clarify that these are obligations that are upon them, and they will be taken into account for the likes of these affairs, for the fact that they belie the day of resurrection and the affairs of the hereafter, and likewise for the fact that they did not pay zakat. This is the aspect of evidence here. He says, وَقَوْلِهِ عَنِ الْكُفَارِ فِي جَوَابِهِمْ عَنْ أَسْبَابِ دُخُولِهِمْ سَقَرٍ. And likewise the statement of Allah the Most High about the disbelievers in their response, clarifying the reason why they entered the blazing hellfire. قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ وَلَمْ نَكُنْ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ حَتَّى أَتَانَا الْيَقِينَ حَتَّى أَتَانَا الْيَقِينَ. The statement of Allah the Most High, which means that they said, and upon responding, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرْ, what landed you all in the blazing hellfire? And what is the reason for you to be punished eternally in the blazing hellfire? وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ, that we were not from those who established the prayer. وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ, we did not used to feed the poor. وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ, and we used to delve into the vain and the foul and lowly talk with those who delve into that foul and lowly speech. وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ, we used to belie the day of judgment. حَتَّى أَتَانَا الْيَقِينَ, all the way until death came to us. All the way until certainty came to us, meaning until death came to us. So belying the day of resurrection is sufficient to be punished in the hellfire. It's sufficient to be to be punished in the blazing fire. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ, but along with that, they're punished for that, and also they're being punished for these other affairs likewise, from the actions and sacred rites of the religion, that they didn't pray, nor did they feed the poor, and that they used to delve into the vain speech and the foul and lowly talk with those who delve, any backbiting and lying and so on and so forth, all of the lowly and foul speech that is forbidden. So they didn't do what they were commanded, and they perpetrated what they're prohibited, and along with that they belied the day of resurrection, and this is their response to why they are in the blazing fire. And this is their response to why they are in the blazing fire. وَقَوْلِهِ, and likewise the statement of Allah the Most High, فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. And he mentions about the statement of Allah the Most High, clarifying those people who will be punished likewise, the disbelievers on the day of resurrection. He did not give charity, nor did he pray. Rather, he belied and turned away. He belied and he denied Allah and his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He denied the Quran. He denied the resurrection. He denied faith, and he turned away and belied that. And this is the reason why he's in the fire. So it's sufficient for a person to be in the fire, the fact that he belied and denied the day of resurrection, or any of the fundamentals of faith, and to turn away and to reject that. But along with doing that, Allah, he mentioned that also that he did not give charity, nor did he establish the prayer. An indication that they're, along with the fact that they belied these great realities, they belied faith, and they denied the belief in Allah and the last day. Along with that, and their punishment for that, they also did not establish those sacred rites, so therefore they're taken into account for that as well. So this is what the Shaykh is saying now. He says, حفظه الله وفائدة خطابهم بالفروع أنهم يؤاخذون على ترك الأصول والفروع. And the benefit of this position and belief, that they are addressed with the actions of the religion. And they're addressed with the actions of the religion. And they're held accountable for disbelieving and not accepting Islam, and they're held accountable for not establishing the obligations of Islam, and also for perpetrating the prohibitions that are forbidden in Islam. They're taking into account for this and for that. This is what he's discussing now. So this is the benefit of this issue, to realize that in the hereafter, the disbelievers, they'll be taken into account for their disbelief, and also for their foul and lowly actions and statements and deeds. And the wisdom from this now, he says, وَلِهَذَا يَتَفَاوَتُ الْكُفَّارُ فِي دَرَكَاتِ النَّارِ كَمَا يَتَفَاوَتُ الْمُسْلِمُونَ فِي دَرَجَاتِ الْجَنَّةِ. So based upon this, the disbelievers, they vary in their levels in the hellfire. But the word here is darakat. We have two words, darajah and darakah. One of them is with the jim, and the other one is with the kaf. So the darajah, the plural is darajat, and these are levels going up. And the other word is darakah, and the plural is darakat, and their levels going down. So he's saying here, hafidhahullah, based upon what has preceded, the disbelievers, they vary in their levels, fi darakat and nar, and their levels in the hellfire. And some of them are lower than others. And some of them have a more severe punishment than others, according to the severity of their disbelief. So disbelief is not one level, nor is the punishment for disbelief. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. So the disbelievers, their levels in the hellfire vary just like the levels of the Muslims vary in Jannah. The disbelievers, their levels in the hellfire vary just like the levels of the Muslims vary in Jannah. And the believers, they're not all one level in Jannah. Rather, their faith likewise varies. Some of them have faith that is stronger and greater and more beneficial for them in this life and the hereafter than others, although they all share in having faith. And therefore, they also all share in entering paradise. They all share in being admitted to paradise, but they do not all enter. But they do not all enter in the same manner nor at the same time. And in paradise, they are not all on the same level. They're not all on the same level. This varies according to their faith. So likewise, the disbelievers, their situation in the hellfire varies according to their disbelief. Varies according to their disbelief. Although all of the disbelievers, not one of them will ever leave the fire. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. Those who die upon disbelief, وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنْهَا يُرِيدُونَ أَنْ يَخْرُجُوا مِنْهَا وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنْهَا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُقِيمٌ. They're not going to ever be out of the fire. Along with that eternal punishment, some of their punishment is more severe. So he says now, وهذا التفاوت في الدركات سببه التفاوت في شدة الكفر. So this variance, this difference in their levels in the hellfire, the reason for that is the difference in the severeness of their disbelief. مثل تفاوت كفر المنافقين والمجوس وأهل الكتاب. Just like the difference of the disbelievers, of the hypocrites and the Majus and the people of the book. والتفاوت في الأذى والصد عن سبيل الله. Likewise, the difference that they have, the variance that they have in harming others and stopping and blocking people, from hindering people from the path of Allah, So the munafiqun, they have the worst punishment. في درك الأسفل من النار, in the lowest level of the hellfire. This is because outwardly they claim to be Muslim, while inwardly they conceal disbelief in order to harm and get over on the believers. So the greatest harm that comes to the believers many times is from the hypocrites. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. It's from the hypocrites. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. So they will have they're in the lowest level of the hellfire. And then after them, likewise, the Majus and the people of the book and the Mushrikun, they all differ in their disbelief. And according to the severeness of that will determine the lowness, and the lowness and the severity of their punishment. كما قال الله عز وجل. Just as Allah the Most High, He says, الذين كفروا وصدوا عن سبيل الله زدناهم عذابا فوق العذاب بما كانوا يفسدون. Those who disbelieved and hinder men from the path of Allah, for them we will add torment to their torment. For them we will add torment, any punishment on top of punishment, because they used to spread corruption by disobeying Allah themselves, as well as ordering others for mankind to do so. And they not only they disbelieved, but also they made effort to stop and hinder others from the path of Allah, and to mislead and misguide them, and to assist and aid others in disbelief as well. So he says here, قال Ibn Kathir, he mentioned about this verse, rahimahullah, أي عذابا على كفرهم وعذابا على صدهم الناس عن اتباع الحق. Meaning that they will be punished for their disbelief, and they'll be punished for hindering the people from following the truth. The verse says again, الذين كفروا, those who disbelieve, وصدوا عن سبيل الله, and they hinder mankind from following the path of Allah. زدناهم عذابا فوق العذاب, will increase them, will add to them a punishment on top of their punishment. They will add to them a punishment on top of their punishment. So there's a punishment and there's a punishment on top of that. So the original punishment is for their disbelief. And the punishment added to that is because of them hindering men from the path of Allah. So the disbeliever who disbelieves, yet he does not hinder others from the path of Allah, then his punishment is for his disbelief. So in comparison to someone who disbelieved and he hindered others from the path of Allah, his punishment is more severe. زِدْنَاهُمْ عَذَابًا فَوْقَ الْعَذَابِ. Then we will add a punishment on top of their punishment. So some people, from those who disbelieve, وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ, they are in punishment in the hellfire. And others, they're in punishment on top of punishment. The others, they're in punishment on top of punishment. So he says, وَقَالَ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بَعْدِ إِيمَانِهِمْ ثُمَّ ازْدَادُوا كُفْرًا لَنْ تُقْبَلَ تَوْبَتُهُمْ وَأُولَئِكَ هُمُ الضَّالُونَ. Those who, he mentioned the statement of Allah the Most High, which means those who disbelieved after their faith, and then they increase in disbelief, their repentance will never be accepted from them. And in the hereafter, it is these, they are the truly misguided. It is these, they are the truly misguided. وقال, and Allah the Most High, He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَظَلَمُوا لَمْ يَكُنِ اللَّهُ لِيَغْفِرَ لَهُم وَلَا لِيَهْدِيَهُمْ طَرِيقًا إِلَّا طَرِيقَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. And the statement of Allah the Most High, which means indeed those who disbelieve and they oppress others. Those who disbelieve and they oppress others, then Allah, He will never forgive them. And He will not, nor would He guide them to the right path, except for the path of the blazing hellfire, to abide therein for eternity. To abide therein for eternity. The point is that from the conditions of the obligation of Hajj and Umrah, and for them both to be considered performed correctly, is that a person, he must be a Muslim. And what is meant that it's not an obligation upon them, لَيْسَ وَاجِبًا عَلَيْهِمْ أَدَاءً قَبْلَ إسلامهم. يعني فالأمر بالوجوب هنا أمر مؤاخذة لا أمر أداء. Yani they're ordered in the manner, if they don't bring the condition and establish it, they'll be taken into account. But they are not ordered to establish it until they bring its condition, which is al-Islam. We understand? Alhamdulillah. He says, وَالْمَجْنُونُ لَا يُؤْمَرُ بِالْحَجِّ وَالْعُمْرَةِ وَلَا يَصِحَّانِ مِنْهُ لَوْ أَتَى بِهِمَا لِفَقْدِهِ عَقْلَهُ. So he says, and the majnoon, the person who is insane, he lost his sanity. He lost his sanity. He's insane. He's not ordered with Hajj nor Umrah likewise. And also they're not correct from him. So just as al-Islam is shartun lil-wujubi wa-sihha, also al-aqlu shartun lil-wujubi wa-sihha. So he's saying that the person who is insane, he's not ordered to perform Hajj nor Umrah, and they're not considered correct from him if he had performed it, because he has lost his intelligence. You understand? So even if somebody was insane, and he's considered legally insane, and his people took him for Hajj or for Umrah, and they put him in the ihram and the likes like this, even if they told him to say labbaik Allahumma, so on and so forth, and they took him through the journey with them, and he did and said everything that they told him to say and do. Even if he did that, it's not accepted from him, nor is it correct, because he doesn't have an aql. This is a condition for the obligation to be upon him, and it's a condition for it to be considered correct. So it's not an obligation because he doesn't have his sanity, and if he were to perform it one way or the other, it will not be accepted from him. Meaning if somebody took their relative who is insane on Hajj or Umrah, and he performed all those rites at their order and the likes like this, and then later on he was guided and cured from insanity, and his sanity came back to him, he would have to make Hajj again. That Hajj did not count for him. And the people who made Hajj with him, they don't have reward. Like taking somebody for Hajj, like a child, for example. If you take a child on Hajj, we'll see, you get a reward for that. So this is a condition here. He says, لِقَوْلِهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. Based upon the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاث. رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاث. That the pen has been lifted from 3. What is intended from the pen? قَلَمُ التكليف. The pen of accountability, that's what the meaning of the narration. The pen has been lifted from 3, meaning the pen of accountability. They're not held accountable for their statements and actions. 3 of them. عن النائم حتى يستيقظ. The one who is sleeping until he wakes up. وعن الصبي حتى يحتلم. And the one who is a child until he reaches the age of puberty. وعن المجنون حتى يعقل. And on the person who is insane until he regains his sanity. So the point of evidence here is very clear. It says, رواه أبو داود عن علي رضي الله عنه بإسناد صحيح على شرط الشيخين وصح أيضا من حديث عائشة وابن عباس رضي الله عنهم. So he says that this is narrated by Abu Dawood from the narration of Ali رضي الله عنه, with the chain that is authentic on the condition of the 2 sheikhs, and Bukhari and Muslim. And also it's been reported authentically from the hadith of Aisha and also Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhum. So therefore, the condition here is first of al-Islam, and then number 2 is al-Aql. And these are both conditions for the obligation and likewise for the correctness of the sacred rites. Condition for the obligation to be upon an individual, and likewise condition for the action to be considered correct. So then he says, Hafidhullah, وَالصَّبِيُّ وَالْعَبْدُ لَا يَجِبَانِ عَلَيْهِمَا وَلَوْ فَعَلَاهُمَا صَحَّا نَفْلًا وَأُجِرَ مَنْ حَجَّ بِهِمَا. And the one who was a child, and below the age of puberty, the one who was a child, below the age of puberty, even below the age of tamyiz, and likewise the slave, it's not an obligation upon the two of them. It's not an obligation upon the two of them. And if they were to perform it, meaning the child and the slave, and if they were to perform these two rites, Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, then it would be considered correct from them, but it would be a voluntary. It would be a voluntary action, non-obligatory. It would be considered a voluntary action, non-obligatory. Non-obligatory, and whoever took them on Hajj will be rewarded for that. So what do we gather now? That al-bulugh and hurriya shartun lil-wujubi walaysa shartan lis-sihha. That reaching the age of puberty and being a freedman is a condition for the obligation, but it's not a condition for the correctness. But we'll find out likewise, وَهُمَا شَرْطَانِ لِلْإِجْزَاءِ. But they're both conditions for that to be considered performed on behalf of the obligation, and for the obligation to be lifted. So al-bulugh and al-hurriya, we discussed these two, right? Reaching the age of puberty and being a freed man. These are two conditions for the obligation of Hajj and Umrah. So the one who is not of the age of puberty, or if he was not a free man, then Hajj and Umrah are not an obligation upon him. But since these two issues here are not conditions for the correctness of the action, then if they were to perform it, the action will be correct. But along with it being a condition for the obligation, also there are conditions for the ijza, for them to be considered performed on in the obligatory manner. We understand the point. So he says, لحديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. This is based upon the narration of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما أنه قال رفعت امرأة صبيا لها فقالت يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ألي هذا حج؟ قال نعم ولك أجر. رواه مسلم. So he says, and this is based upon the hadith of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, that he said that a woman, she raised up a young child that she had, and she said, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, does this one have Hajj? And does this Hajj count for him? And this is whenever she's making Hajj. And she raises up a young child, and she says, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, does he have Hajj? Likewise, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, yes, and you will have a reward. So here the people of knowledge, they mentioned that in some wordings, she's holding him up by his arm. And even an indication that he's a child, it's a baby. He's small, able to be carried by a woman and lifted in this manner like this and held up. And meaning he's below the age of tamyiz even. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, yes, and you will have a reward. And it's narrated by Muslim. So he says, likewise, وَرَوَى الْبُخَارِي فِي صَحِيحِهِ عن السائب ibn Yazid رضي الله عنه أنه قال حج بي مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا ابن 7 سنين. He said also it's been narrated by Bukhari in his authentic collection from the hadith of As-Sa'ib ibn Yazid radiyallahu anhu, that he said that I was taken on Hajj along with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam whenever I was 7 years old. I was taken on Hajj to make Hajj, and he hujja bi, and he's not just taken on he's taken on the Hajj along with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam while he was 7 years old. So this is an indication that for children to make Hajj is legislated. Although it would not suffice for removing the obligation of making Hajj once in a lifetime. Or making Hajj or Umrah once in a lifetime. So he says, وَلَا يُجْزِيهِمَا عن حجة الإسلام. But this Hajj here will not suffice them for the Hajj of Islam, and the one that's an obligation once in a lifetime. بل يحجان حجة أخرى بعد البلوغ والإتق. Rather, it's an obligation for them to make another Hajj after they reach puberty or after they're freed. Or after they're freed. بحديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما, and this is based upon the narration of Abdullah ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما أنه قال, that he said, احفظوا عني ولا تقولوا قال ابن عباس ولا تقولوا قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. Memorize this, learn this from me, and do not say that Ibn Abbas he said this, and do not say that Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما he said this. Any meaning that this is something that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam he said, أيما عبد حج به أهله ثم أعتق فعليه الحج. Any slave that his people and his owners took him on Hajj and then he was freed, then he must make Hajj. Then he must make Hajj. Then he must make Hajj. وأيما صبي حج به أهله صبيا ثم أدرك فعليه حجة الرجل. And any child who his family took him on Hajj while he was a child and then he reached the age of puberty, then it's incumbent upon him to make the Hajj of a man. And to make the Hajj of a man, you need to make the Hajj again. And for that obligation of performing this pillar of the pilgrimage to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal once in a lifetime. Once in a lifetime. So these two conditions here, al-bulugh wal-hurriya, are conditions for the obligation, a condition for it to be considered performed for the obligatory Hajj. But it's not a condition for the correctness, meaning if one of them were to perform it, it would be considered correct, but it would be non-obligatory. But it would be non-obligatory. Non-obligatory. Understand? So one thing to mention here, although if someone took their child on Hajj and their child made Hajj with them, that Hajj would be considered correct if he fulfilled those rights properly. And that parent or guardian would have a reward. It's not an obligation. So it's not necessary, a necessity. Maybe someone will make Hajj and they will have a child and they don't have to put him in ihram. If they do, they have to, after doing that, fulfill that. And you do their best to fulfill the rights for that child and go through that burden and hardship, so on and so forth. So on and so forth. But it's not an obligation. So maybe somebody will make Hajj with his child and his child will not be in ihram. That's the point. That's the point. So a person who look to that which is easiest for them and most facilitated, and for their circumstance and situation. If they put their child in the ihram, they carry him through that process with them, then alhamdulillah, this is good. But if they didn't and they made Hajj themselves or Umrah themselves and they brought their child with them, not in the state of ihram, then this is also allowed. Then this is also allowed. So he says, Hafidhahullah ta'ala, al-hadith rawahu ibn Abi Shaybah, واسناده صحيح, وابن أبي شيبة شيخ البخاري ومسلم, واسناده على شرطهما. He said that this narration here is narrated by Ibn Abi Shaybah, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shaybah. He died in the year 235. He has a book called Musannif, Al-Musannif, very famous. Musannif Ibn Abi Shaybah. He said, and the chain is authentic. And Ibn Abi Shaybah, he is the Shaykh of Bukhari and Muslim. He's the Shaykh and the teacher of Bukhari and Muslim. And his chain here is on the condition of both of them. On the condition of both of them. Rawahu wa rawahu Bayhaqi marfu'an. And this narration also has been narrated from Al-Bayhaqi, ascribed to the Prophet, meaning directly. وقول ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما, and the statement of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, احفظوا عني ولا تقولوا قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. And the statement of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما in the beginning of the narration, whenever he said, memorize this from me, learn this from me, and do not say Ibn Abbas he said this رضي الله عنهما, he says يدل على أنه مرفوع إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And this is an indication that this narration is ascribed to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Yani Ibn Abbas, he wants to clarify that this is not a fatwa or ijtihad from him, rather this is something that he learned from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So now we move on. He says, وَالْقَادِرُ هُوَ الْقَادِرُ بِبَدَنِهِ وَمَالِهِ. And as for the one who has the ability, then he's the one who has the ability physically and financially. The one who has the ability physically and financially. So we discussed the issue of Al-Islam, and we discussed the issue of Al-Aql, and we discussed the issue of Al-Bulugh, and we discussed the issue of Al-Hurriyyah, and now we're discussing the issue of Al-Qudra or Istita'a. Al-Qudra or Al-Istita'a has the same meaning, to have the ability, to have the ability. So the Mustati' or the Qadir, this is what we're discussing now. This is one of the strongest and most important conditions, because Allah, He mentioned this condition specifically in His book. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ عَلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ عَلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. Allah, He mentioned that there's incumbent obligation upon mankind to perform the pilgrimage to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Allah, for those who have the ability. مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ عَلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. So this condition is very important. This condition is very important. We pay attention to that verse. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ. We discussed this verse previously, clarifying that Al-Hajj is an obligation. That Al-Hajj is an obligation. But along with that obligation, the condition is mentioned as well. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ عَلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. Those who have the ability. And this is from the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, and from the ease of the legislation and the religion. That it's an obligation, yes, but that obligation is not upon anyone who does not have the ability, physically or financially. Physically or financially, from the ease of the religion, alhamdulillah, and the mercy of Ar-Rahman. وَالْقَادِرُ هُوَ الْقَادِرُ بِبَدَنِهِ وَمَالِهِ. The one who has the ability, he is the one who is able with his body and his wealth. With his body and his wealth. And he physically and financially. Physically and financially. لِقَوْلِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. And this is based upon the statement of Allah, the Most High. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ عَلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. And this is based upon the statement of Allah, the Most High, and the pilgrimage to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal is an incumbent duty and obligation upon mankind, owed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who have the ability. فمن عجز عن الحج والعمرة لهرم أو مرض لا يرجى برؤه أو كان قادرا ببدنه وليس عنده مال يحج به أو يعتمر لم يجب عليه. So the one who was not able to make Hajj or Umrah because of old age or because of a sickness that's not hoped to be cured, يعني that's not hoped to be cured, يعني يغلب على ظنه وعلى ظن المتخصصين. And meaning that most likely what is known is that this type of sickness is they don't know a cure for it. There's no known cure for it. And Allah, He has the ability to cure all diseases and all sicknesses. وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ دَاءً إِلَّا وَأَنزَلَ مَعَهُ شِفَاءً. And Allah, He has not sent down any disease except He has sent down along with that the cure. عَلِمَهُ مَنْ عَلِمَ وَجَهِلَهُ مَنْ جَهِلَ. Those who know it, they know it, and those who do not know it, they do not know it. So what is intended by the statement of the people of knowledge when they say يعني مرض لا يرجى برؤه, a type of sickness that's not hoped to be cured, meaning that they know there's no known cure for it. That normally this type of sickness is not cured and they do not know a cure for it. Not meaning that it's something that could never be cured. And it's meaning that with their knowledge and their experience, they know no cure for it, any other than by the grace and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person who was not able to make Hajj nor Umrah because of old age or because of this type of terminal sickness, أو كان قادرا ببدنه وليس عنده مال يحج به, or if he was physically able to, but he does not have any money, he does not have the wealth to make Hajj or Umrah, then they're not an obligation upon him. Somebody who is not physically able to because of old age, or because of a sickness or an ailment in his body, it's not an obligation for him to make Hajj. Or somebody who is physically strong, but he does not have the finances. He doesn't have enough money to make Hajj or to make Umrah. Likewise, the obligation is not upon him. Nor is it an obligation for him to save money. To make Hajj. If somebody was poor, for example, and he's strong, and he doesn't have enough money to make Hajj, or he doesn't have enough money to make Umrah, it's not an obligation for him to make Hajj nor Umrah. Nor is it an obligation for him to make money or to take a loan or the likes like this. He doesn't have to save up pennies and the likes. It's not incumbent upon him. This right is not upon him. It's not upon him until he has the physical ability along with the financial ability. So this person here, he's able to physically but not financially. So he just will wait until he's able to financially. And if he lives a lifetime and never has the ability financially and he dies in that manner, there's no blame upon him. There's no blame upon him. This obligation is not upon him. This obligation is not upon him. And it's not allowed for someone to make Hajj on behalf of him. It's not allowed for someone to make Hajj on behalf of him because he has the physical ability. As for the financial ability, this is something that could come and go. It could come and go. It could come and go. Maybe he's poor today, or he does not have the financial ability today or this year, but maybe he will next year. He does not know. He does not know. So it will not be allowed for someone to make Hajj on his behalf. To make Hajj on his behalf. We understand this. Someone who is physically able but not financially able, no one can make Hajj on his behalf. No one can make Hajj on his behalf. Somebody could give him the money to make Hajj on himself. Somebody could give him the money for him to make Hajj on himself, sponsor him, which is a great deed, and highly encouraged. And the Salaf, they used to do the likes of this. Ibn Mubarak used to can you hajjiju nas? And he used to take the people with him on Hajj, and he would pay for it. Radiallahu anhu. And the people, sometimes they do the likes of this is good. But the point is that it's not allowed for anyone to make Hajj for him because he's physically able. But he just can't financially. But he just cannot financially. So now he says, moving on to the next point. He says, وَمَنْ عَجَزَ بِبَدَنِهِ وَعِنْدَهُ مَالٌ لَزِمَهُ أَنْ يُنِيبَ مَنْ يَحُجُّ عَنْهُ وَيَعْتَمِرُ. And the one who does not have the ability physically, but he has the finances, it's an obligation for him to pay for someone to perform Hajj and Umrah on behalf of him. The one who does not have the ability physically, and he has a terminal illness, or he's of old age, and he has the finances, he's financially able, then it's an incumbent obligation for him to pay someone else to make those rights on his behalf. This is not for someone who has a sickness today and he's taking treatment and it's hoped that it will be cured and go away after 1 month or 2 months or 1 year or 2 years and the likes like this. This is for the person who does not have the ability physically, and he is the one who has al-haram in the old age. He's not able to physically because of old age, or because of a sickness that is not expected to go away, or because of a sickness that's not expected to go away. This one here, if he has the financial ability, it's an obligation for him to pay someone else to perform Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah on his behalf. So Al-Niyaba, or Hajj Badal, to perform Hajj on someone else's behalf, if we're referring to someone who is alive, then that is only in the case of someone who has the money, but he does not have the physical ability. Because of old age or because of a sickness. This person, one can make Hajj on his behalf with his permission. With his permission, if he has the wealth, then it's an obligation for him to pay that. To pay someone to perform those rights on his behalf. So he says, وَلِغَيْرِهِ أَنْ يُحُجَّ عَنْهُ وَيَعْتَمِرْ لِحَدِيثِ أَبِي رَزِينَ الْعُقَيْلِ. And someone else can make Hajj and Umrah on his behalf, based upon the hadith of Abi Razin al-Uqayli radiyallahu anhu, أنه أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال, that he came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم and he said, يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أبي شيخ كبير لا يستطيع الحج ولا العمرة ولا الظعن. He said, indeed, my father, he is an old man and he's not able to make Hajj nor Umrah, and he's not able to make al-Dha'an. We discussed this before. Al-Dha'an, some of the people of Nara, as they mentioned, able to ride on an animal. And others, they mentioned he's not able to travel. Meaning he's not able to make the journey. He's not able to make Hajj nor Umrah nor to make the journey because he is an old man. He's an old man. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال حج عن أبيك واعتمر, that you should make Hajj on behalf of your father and Umrah. So this is the evidence for that. وقد تقدم قريبا في وجوب الحج والعمرة, and this narration has proceeded recently in the clarification of the obligation of Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah. ولحديث الفضل ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما أنه قال, and also based upon the narration of Al-Fadl ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, that he said, جاءت امرأة من خثعم عام حجة الوداع قالت يا رسول الله إن فريضة الله على عباده في الحج أدركت أبي شيخا كبيرا لا يستطيع أن يستوي أن يستوي على الراحلة فهل يقضي عنه أن أحج عنه قال نعم رواه al-Bukhari wa Muslim. So he says also, based upon the narration of Al-Fadl ibn Abbas, and that he said that a woman from Khath'am, and this tribe, she came in the year of the farewell pilgrimage to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, indeed the obligation of Hajj upon his slaves has reached my father while he's an old man. Indeed the obligation of Hajj upon his slaves, indeed the obligation of Allah upon his slaves to make Hajj has reached my father while he's an old man, and he's not able to ride on a riding animal. Would it suffice for him if I made Hajj on his behalf? So he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yes. It's narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. So we see that she clarifies that he is not able to make Hajj because of his old age. And it's clarified likewise that that obligation is still upon him, even though he's not able to, and he reached old age. Even though he's not able to, and he reached old age. And we find that there's a person here willing to make Hajj on their behalf. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, that will suffice for him. And likewise, the author, he mentions another benefit, وَفِي هَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَيْضًا دَلِيلٌ عَلَى حَجِّ الْمَرْأَةِ عَنِ الرَّجُلِ. Also in this narration is an evidence for the correctness of a woman making Hajj on behalf of a man. Of a woman making Hajj on behalf of a man. So if a woman can make Hajj on behalf of a man, then likewise a man can make Hajj on behalf of a woman. But we've seen the one that you can make Hajj on behalf of them, and from those who are alive, from those who are alive. So if someone he is of old age, or he is not able to make the journey physically, but he is able to financially, then it's an obligation for him to pay someone else to make Hajj on his behalf. This is the point that we want to make here. This is the point that we want to make here. It could be a male or a female. It could be a male or a female. Even if he didn't have the money, if he didn't have the money and he's not able to, is it an obligation upon him? No, it's not. But if somebody wanted to do good to him, some of his relatives, or someone who knows him very well and wants to repay some goodness that he had done in his lifetime to them, and they decided to make Hajj on his behalf, is that allowed? Is that allowed? Huh? Yes, it's allowed. It's allowed. He doesn't have the ability, because he doesn't have the ability physically. He doesn't have the ability physically, nor financially. So if you want to make, if he doesn't have the ability physically nor financially, but if you want to make Hajj on his behalf, you can, with the condition that you get permission from him. If he's alive, you have to get permission from him, and he has to agree. He has to agree. You just can't go make Hajj on behalf of someone who's alive without their permission or without them knowing about it. Rather, you have to get their permission. So it would be allowed here because this person, he doesn't have the physical ability. So the one who doesn't have the physical ability, then you can make Hajj on his behalf. You can make Hajj on his behalf. Although it's not an obligation upon him until he has the financial ability. If he has the financial ability, now it's an obligation upon him to pay someone else to make those rights on his behalf. We understand the issue here. Alhamdulillah. We move on to another topic on the same subject. He says, Hafidhullah, وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَهُوَ لَمْ يَحُجَّ وَلَهُ مَالٌ أُخْرِجَ مِنْ تَرِكَتِهِ مَا يُحَجُّ بِهِ عَنْهُ وَلِغَيْرِهِ أَنْ يُحُجَّ عَنْهُ. He said that, and whoever died and he did not make Hajj and he has the money, then that which would suffice for someone to make Hajj on his behalf will be taken from his inheritance, meaning before it's distributed. Will be taken from his inheritance, meaning before it's distributed. Because this is the right of Allah, it will be the first one to be paid back. The first one to be paid back even before the inheritors. And somebody else, it's allowed for someone else to make Hajj on his behalf. And if they wanted to do that, tatawwu'an. If they wanted to do that, voluntarily. This is in the right of someone who died. If someone died and he left behind an inheritance, and in that inheritance is enough for someone to make Hajj on his behalf, then it's an obligation to take that money out of his inheritance and give it to someone to make Hajj on his behalf. And then after that, the rest will be divided amongst the inheritors. in the manner that is well known. We understand that? And it's also allowed for someone to say, no, just leave his wealth to this inheritors. I'll make Hajj on his behalf. One of the relatives maybe, or a friend. And the likes like this is also lawful. He says, and this is based upon the hadith of the hadith Burayda ibn al-Husayb. Based upon the hadith of Burayda ibn al-Husayb radiyallahu anhu, وَفِيهِ أَنَّ امْرَأَةً مَاتَتْ أُمُّهَا سَأَلَتَ النَّبِيَّ صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت, that a woman, her mother died, and she asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said, إِنَّهَا لَمْ تُحُجَّ قَطْ أَفَحُجُّ عَنْهَا قَالَ حُجِّ عَنْهَا. She said, indeed, my mother, she never made Hajj ever. Should I make Hajj on her behalf? And he said, make Hajj on her behalf. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rawahu Muslim. Narrated by Muslim. So the discussion continues about having the ability. And now it's a specific issue related to the woman. So he says, حفظه الله تعالى والمرأة القادرة ببدنها ومالها لا تكون مستطيعة إلا بوجود محرم لها يحج معها. And the woman who is able to physically and financially, then she's not considered having the ability except with the presence of a mahram that will make Hajj with her. Except with the presence of a mahram that will make Hajj with her. And this is in the case whenever the woman is in need of traveling in order to make Hajj. So therefore, any woman who's going to have to travel to make Hajj, then from the conditions for the obligation to be upon her, not only does she have to have the physical ability and the financial ability, along with that she has to have a mahram who will go with her on the journey. So if she was from the strongest of the women and the most affluent and wealthy, yet she did not have a mahram to go with her on that journey, it's not an obligation upon her. It's not an obligation upon her. That right is not upon her. She's not taken into account for that. She's not required to do that. She doesn't have to worry or think about that. And from the mercy of her Lord and the kindness of Allah Azza wa Jal is that obligation is not upon her. It's not upon her. We understand this? Alhamdulillah. So he says, لِقَوْلِهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. This is based upon the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لَا تُسَافِرُ الْمَرْأَةُ إِلَّا مَعَ ذِي مَحْرَمٍ. That a woman, she must not travel except with a mahram. وَلَا يَدْخُلُ عَلَيْهَا رَجُلٌ إِلَّا وَمَعَهَا مَحْرَمٍ. And no man should ever be alone with her except if she has with her a mahram. Except if she has a mahram. فَقَالَ رَجُلٌ. And a man, he said at this time. We heard the narration. What is the narration about? لَا تُسَافِرُ الْمَرْأَةُ إِلَّا مَعَ ذِي مَحْرَمٍ. A woman must not travel except with a mahram. وَلَا يَدْخُلُ عَلَيْهَا رَجُلٌ إِلَّا وَمَعَهَا مَحْرَمٍ. And a man should not enter upon her or be in her company except with a mahram. So a man, he hears this. فَقَالَ رَجُلٌ. A man, he heard this and he says, now, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, inni uridu an akhruja fi jayshi kada wa kada. O Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, indeed, I intend to go out in the army of such and such. In some wordings, qad uktubtu fi ghazwati kada wa kada. And indeed, I have enrolled, I've signed up, and I'm signed up to go out in the battle of such and such. And meaning that he is signed up in the Muslim army. He's enrolled in the Muslim army, and he's prepared to go out for battle in the Muslim army at the command of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now he heard this narration. This is what he's preparing to do. He's preparing himself to go for jihad in the path of Allah under the banner of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he heard this narration. And he says, wa imra'ati turidu al-hajj. And along with that, and my wife wants to make Hajj. And now you see the relation. Why he said this before? Why he said he heard this narration, a woman, she must not travel without a mahram. A woman must not travel without a mahram. There's other narrations likewise. لا يحل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر. It's not allowed. لا يحل. It's not halal for a woman. Which woman? تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر. Who believes in Allah and the last day. أن تسافر مسيرة يوم وليلة إلا ومعها ذو محرم. To travel the distance of a day and night, except that she has along with her a mahram. The distance of a day and night approximately is 80 kilometers in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is roughly around 49 miles. So this is the distance of traveling. So it's not allowed for a woman who believes in Allah in the last day to travel that distance. وَإِلَّا وَمَعَهَا محرم or ذو محرم وإلا مع ذي محرم وإلا معها ذو محرم, the same meaning. Or except that she has along with her a mahram. So here this narration is clarifying this affair. The Prophet ﷺ is telling the people this, that a woman she cannot travel without a mahram. And the man, he says, and he's thinking this is becoming problematic now because my wife is ready to go make Hajj, but I'm enrolled to go make jihad. And jihad is something major. But now he's thinking about this. What should I do? So the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? فَقَالَ أُخْرُجْ مَعَهَا. Go make Hajj with your wife. And he take your name off the list for jihad and go make Hajj with your wife. Why? Because she left to go make Hajj. She can't make Hajj by herself. It's not allowed for her. That's haram. So it's a great maslahah for him to go for jihad. But it's a great mafsada for his wife to be alone perpetrating this prohibition in this manner like this. So dar'u al-mafasid muqaddim ala jalb al-masalih. So in any case, it's not allowed for a woman to travel except if she has a mahram. It's not allowed for a woman to travel, not to make Hajj, not to make Umrah, not to visit her mother or father, or any other reason, except with a mahram. If she doesn't have a mahram, it's not allowed for her to travel. And if she doesn't have a mahram, it's not an obligation for her to make Hajj nor Umrah. You understand that part? This woman, she was the wife of a companion, making her a female companion. She's going to make Hajj in the days of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So who's making Hajj? For sure the companions are making Hajj. So who she's going to go with? She's going to go with the companions to make Hajj, right? And then her husband is about to go for jihad with the companions likewise, radiyallahu anhum. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say, "Oh, you're going for jihad, mashallah, mubarak. Yes, we need you in the battlefield. You could really help the believers and aid the religion." He said, "No, you go with your wife. You go with your wife." So this is a test for some women. And Allah, He mentions about those believing men and women. ما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل ضلالا مبينا. It's not for a believing man nor a believing woman that whenever Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam order or ordain a commandment, that they have any choice in their affair. And whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have fallen into clear misguidance. We continue from here inshallah tomorrow. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.